may very well be the first person in the world to take a manual 6-speed Getrag box out of a Mini Cooper and replace it with a 5-speed. And that's not a brag. I'm basically downgrading my transmission in order to comply with the class rule set of the time attack class that I want to go in. If you're new to the channel, hi, welcome. If you've been here for a minute, you know what's going on. Basically, I'm building this car for Gridlife's Sundae Cup time attack class. And what that is basically small, underpowered, lightweight hatchbacks like this one, making roughly 100 horsepower and roughly 2,500 pounds. You can move that slider either way. It's basically a power to weight class. But what's going on is I built this car originally with parts that I had. And what that was a 6-speed box out of a Cooper S with a supercharger. But because I want to enter this class, I have to comply with their rules, which say that for any given car that you put into the class, it has to have an OEM original matched pair drivetrain. And currently, what I have in this car does not comply with that, because as a regular Cooper, this has no supercharger. It is a naturally aspirated 1.6 liter 4-cylinder, makes about 110 horsepower, and under here sits that manual 6-speed Getrag box that never would have come with this engine. That's the problem that they have with it. They won't let me run with this because it was never offered that way. But this is a Getrag 5-speed box out of a later year Cooper. And even though that box never would have been offered in this particular car of this year, it is the same chassis and it is the same engine, and therefore, even though it came out of a later model year car, I'm allowed to put it in and use it. So I'm really happy that I got the Getrag 5-speed. The Midlands 5-speeds that came in, what would have come in this 04, were trash, garbage, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to use those. So I know you guys already seen me take out the transmission out of this car and my supercharged R53 over here once or twice, maybe 3 times. So I'm not going to put you through that again, but what I am going to do is all right, there you go. So this is a 6-speed, the short ratio from the facelift cars 05 and 06, the supercharged R53s. This transmission never came in that car, but since I had this out and available, I'm gonna weigh this transmission and the 5-speed so that you guys can know the difference and so that I can know how much I'm losing for fun.
Nerd.
Yep. Okay, I have both transmissions out on the floor. Here's what I wanna do. This is the 6-speed, this is the 5-speed. We're both realizing at this moment that this one is significantly taller when compared, which makes sense because it only has 2 shafts to distribute all the gears on, whereas the 6-speed has 3 shafts, so they have to be longer, respectively. Just interesting details. This one also has an arm-style release mechanism, and this one has a fork-style release mechanism. Interesting differences here. I know for a fact that this is lighter. What I have not done yet is weigh the clutch kits together, but you can see visually that this one is larger, this one is smaller, so I'm sure that this one will be at least a little bit lighter. So let's see what happens. All right. Now I lied a little bit. We have actually already weighed this one. It won't show anything on the number, but if I just give it a little bit of a lift, we found that it comes to 102, and 100-ish pounds is where this scale maxes out at, but I'm just putting the slightest bit of pull on it. So we figured this transmission is about 103 or 104 pounds dry. With all the mechanisms on it, the cable holders, the release bearing, all that stuff loaded without fluid, 103, 104 pounds. We'll put that to the side. Whoa. Now for the 5-speed. This one, immediately, I'm much more comfortable carrying it. So this is going to be significant. Let's not fall over. 72 pounds. Wow. So right off the bat, that is 31, 32 pounds lighter, just the transmission by itself. That is significant, especially on a front-wheel drive, front-heavy car like the Mini. That's exciting. That's real weight reduction. All right, let's weigh the clutch packs. This is not an OEM setup. This is a single mass conversion kit that you would put on a supercharged car. That is 35 pounds. With rounding, 35 pounds. Let's see what this one weighs. Oh, there's no shelf for me to grab it by. Oops. Okay. 23 and a half, 24 pounds. Wow. That's a lot. So what was the other one, 35? Mm-hmm. So that's another 11 pounds right there. Wow, that's 42, 43 pounds difference. Wow. So I just realized, as I'm about to put this transmission in, I thought this was original to my parts car and that it had like 180,000 miles on it. It doesn't. The sticker here, I'm guessing, is telling me that it was replaced. That would be the 22nd of August of 2013, or at least it was produced then. So this is not 17 or 18 years old, it's only 10 years old. And I don't know how many miles that means, but it's younger than I thought, which is good. There's been an unexpected turn of events as I've tried to take this car apart. The steering rack boot on either side was kind of bulged and inflated. And I thought that maybe, you know, whoever replaced these in the past just got them so tight that they're actually air sealed. But I decided I was going to do something about that. And I just decided to make a little cut on the top of this boot so the air could get in and out of it, but not enough to let dust in. And it shot me in the face with fluid. It's full of it. And I'm not sure if that means that the rack needs new seals and it's actually leaking, or I don't know. That's the only assumption I can come to right now. So luckily I have a parts car and I'll just put the other steering rack in it. All right, I'm no longer upset that this happened, because as I'm taking the subframe out of this parts car, I'm realizing not only do I have a good steering rack here, I also have good control arms that aren't bent to hell, because on my track car, at one point when I was replacing the ball joints, I was hammering on them to try to get the ball joints out of the sockets, and it bent them up pretty good. But that car has totally straight control arms, so I'm going to take this opportunity to swap those out and use all of the parts off of that car to improve this one ever so little. And the more I think about it, the funnier this is, because if you look at what's happening here, the fluid that's in the steering rack, that's in the reservoir up here, is supposed to be sealed, and you're not supposed to have fluid in here, but it wasn't leaking before I cut a little slit in it. So what was happening was the rack had failed, the seals in the rack had failed, but whoever put these boots on, put them on so tight, not only did they hold air, they held fluid and didn't leak for when they owned it, and through like 15,000 miles of my ownership driving across the country, the fluid in the rack was being held in by the dust boot. I'm at a loss for words. This is hilarious. The other side is just like this too. It's squishy. You can feel the fluid in there. I don't know why I've never tried this before. I didn't assume that there would be fluid in it, but we're taking care of it today.